Boom, we are recording. It is Wednesday, February 27th, 2019, day 3 of the March Madness push. And I just want to thank publicly Dylan for taking time to chat with us this morning. And it's been really a great series so far. We went over goal setting on day 1. Yesterday, Gina and Appy went over emotional intelligence on day 2. And then today, we got a consistent selling with Dylan Fitz. For those of you guys that don't know, Dylan is approaching $600,000 in Cutco sales now. He is the longest lasting, consistent rep that I've ever had in my entire life. 52 consecutive weeks in a row over $1,000. He officially hit it last week, having a $6,000 week, which is really exciting. And, really just doing a great job. Number 1 in the office for the campaign. Already had his first 100 sales of the year so far. And he just being consistent, leveling up every year since he started. So Dylan's going to talk to us today about consistent selling. He is really just a huge asset to our Clearwater Game Changers organization and, of course, our Florida United division. So without further ado, I'm going to just pass it over to Dylan, and you can take it over from here. I'll mute myself out.
Awesome. So I have a couple of thoughts jotted down here about consistent selling. Can you guys hear me okay?
Fine.
Awesome. So one of the first things that I jotted down on here has to do with let me see. Okay. So the first thing I have jotted down here is about mindset for your consistency. So one thing that happened to me recently that I thought was really interesting and pertains to our topic of consistency. One of my other CSP friends from Virginia asked me the other day when we were at a conference. He said, Dylan, generally I find that I'm more inconsistent than I am consistent. So the way that he sells is that he'll go really hard for 2 or 3 weeks, and then he'll have like some burnout, and he'll kind of have to like take a week or 2 off or something like that, and just like chill or recharge or not work as hard. And that's the way that his Cutco career has been over the last 2 or 3 or 4 years, which is pretty much how most Cutco reps operate. If you think about the reps that we work with over the summer, they work really hard for a push or for a couple of months, and then they just kind of have that burnout, and then that's it, right? So in the CSP world, it's not any different. We just have done it longer sometimes. So one of the questions that he asked me was, how many weeks did you work last year? And we were face to face. I looked at him and I was just like, I was puzzled. Like I said, like, what do you mean? He's like, well, like how many weeks did you not work? How many weeks did you take off? How many, what was your time off like? And I just looked at him. I was like, I didn't take any weeks off. What are you talking about? And then he kind of explained the whole, like the burnout thing and how he does it. But my reaction was that way because I view my business, my Cutco business, like it's my business. All right. This is something that I kind of got clear on a little recently, is that I view my Cutco business like a business. Some people view it like a job, where if you work at a job, they tell you when to work, and then they give you a schedule, and then you go and do that schedule. And if you don't feel like doing that schedule, you can call in sick, or you can switch your shifts, or you can do whatever. And that business will still operate without you. So in my Cutco business, I treat it like a business where if I don't show up and if I don't work, the business doesn't operate without me. And it's the same for all of you guys, but you just treat it more like a job. And that's why you don't have consistent sales. So I think that's a really important distinction to make, is how do you treat your Cutco business. The second question that I have there on mindset, this is something huge. I can't remember if somebody told me this or how I really came about this, but after my first full year of selling Cutco, this was my second summer. I had this thought of what is my standard for a week. And so I just came up with a number, and it was my first full year. So I said $1,000. If I sell $1,000 for the week, that was a good week. That was a week that I can feel like I did a good job. I executed what I needed to do. It was nothing crazy. It was nothing special. I didn't have any massive orders, but I planned my schedule. I made some phone calls. I did some demos. I got some orders. I got $1,000. That was my standard, was $1,000. And then the next year I said, well, my new standard is $1,500, or maybe it was $2,000. I don't honestly remember, but every year I was intentional that I increased the standard of what a good week was for me. So last week in 2019, I sold $6,000, which was a good week for sure. But the week before that, I only sold, I think, $3,000, which for me anymore is not really a good week. That's a week that I worked and things didn't go quite so well as I wanted them to, and I didn't sell as much as my standard is. So that's a question for you to write down right now: is what is your standard for a good week in sales? Write that standard down and hold yourself to that. That's a big part of your mindset, is like if you're on Saturday or Sunday and the weekend's on Monday and you're not at where your standard for the week is, you need to be thinking, what can I do to be able to get to that standard so that I can feel good about how my week went? It's for you. It's the way that you feel that helps drive that. So that's a little bit about mindset. The next thing I have on here is about schedule. So planning. I have days planned in my calendar, in my schedule. I have probably 4 or 6 of them over the next 3 or 4 months that are just planning days. So they're days that are planned for me to plan. All right. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of how important that is for me. The further that you can plan your schedule in the future, the more successful that you will be. And I can say that and back it up with numbers. When I was in school at the University of Florida, I was planning by the week or by the month. A lot of times, if you asked me what I was doing in a couple of weeks, I couldn't tell you. All I knew is that I was probably going to be in school and I was probably going to be selling Cutco. Where I was going to be or what I was going to be doing was a little bit up in the air. And I sold $30,000 my first full year selling Cutco, and then $50,000 the year after that, and then $80,000 the year after that, doing that, scheduling basically by week or by a month in advance at the furthest. But now that I'm treating it like a business, like it's my business, I'm planning as far into the future as I can possibly think in detail. So like I said, right now I know where I'm going to be going to do appointments and what shows I'm going to be working. I know what shows I'm going to be working for the whole rest of the year, but I know where I'm going to be doing appointments and like what I'm going to be doing on a day-to-day basis until like May or something like that, which is, I have another plan day coming up next week, so I can schedule it even further than that. So if you work at school, if you are able to plan more effectively, that's going to help you sell more consistently because you have an action step, you have a plan of attack for the way that you can handle your weeks. So planning is key. I learned from Mike the Power Hour, and I took it a little bit of a step further. I'll give you guys a little tip here. When I was in school, I sat down for a power hour. I just spent an hour, scheduling, planning my weeks and months. But I sat down and I wrote a list of absolutely everything that I could ever do. So I wrote, I put demos on there. I put phone time on there. I put homework. I put, watching videos in Vector Connect. I put, calling my mom. I put changing the oil in my car. I put literally everything that I could ever do or wanted to do on a list. All right. And then I categorized it. These ones are business. These ones are family. These ones are, homework and school or whatever. So that way, every time that I do a power hour, every week that I do that, I can sit down and I can go through this big list of all these things. And then if there's something that I need to do that I forgot that I needed to do, but it's on the list, I can say, oh, I need to do that this week, or I need to do that next week, or whatever, and I can put it on the schedule. And then every couple of months now, I look back at my schedule, and because I frequently will write things to do in my schedule that I've never needed to do before, or have not been put on the list yet. So I'm frequently updating that list of stuff that I could or need to do. So that's a really easy way for me to work a schedule and not forget about things that are important, especially if they're not an everyday or an every week or an every month thing. That'll help me to be more consistent that way. So plan a schedule. That'll help you more consistent. The next thing that I have written on here is about days off. So back to my conversation with my other CSP friend, when he asked me how many weeks did I work last year, he said, in response to my, I work because I work, it's my business, I work every week, right? He said, that sounds really hard because I like to take time off. I like to do things with my family. I like to do things with my friends. I don't know if I could work every week. Well, I just want to let you guys know, I'm going to sell this week anywhere from 6 to 10 grand this week in Cutco. And my day yesterday, like I said, I went and rented a Jaguar F-Type car for $240 for a 24-hour period, so that I could go drive around my mom, drive around my best friend, drive around my roommate. I hung out in my apartment for a couple hours, did some grocery shopping, and then I went to a concert in Tampa from 6 p.m. Till 1 in the morning. All right. So like yesterday was a really fun day off. All right. And I have days off like that pretty much, I would say, once every week. If it's a really busy week, maybe 2 or 3 times a month. So I want to let you guys know that being consistent doesn't mean that you have to work all the time. But as you can probably already imagine from my last couple of thoughts on planning, you need to plan your days off. They need to be in the schedule. Just like if it was an appointment, just like if it was a phone jam or a team meeting, you need to plan your days off so that way you can be intentional about when you are working and when you're not. All right. A note that I wrote down here is I wrote down enjoyment versus an empty schedule. So if you've been selling Cutco for, I don't know, more than a month or so right now, you've probably had the days off where they were not planned, where they were accidental days off. You're like, I wanted to work today, but I didn't make phone calls, so I don't have any appointments. So now it's the day off, right? So I've had those before too. And they're much less enjoyable than if you had planned to not be working that day. You feel guilty a little bit. Like if you're planning on working, if you plan to have demos, but instead you don't have any demos, so you just hang around at your apartment, or you watch some TV, or you go to the beach or whatever. It's a guilty feeling. It's a guilty day off. And it's a lot more enjoyable if you plan to have that day off instead. And so all you need to do is put it in your schedule, right? And then instead of demos for that day, schedule more demos for the other days, right? It's simple. And along that same line of thought, something that I'm talking with my mentor, Andy Johnson, you guys might know that name, that I talked to him about recently, was that when you plan your days off with your enjoyment, plan something that like an activity that's really, that like fires you up, right? So going back to the whole like sitting on the couch Netflix thing, if relaxing and taking time off and watching movies like really fires you up, then do that. But if you're more fired up about like playing sports or going fishing, or like, like an actual activity, like a hobby, like something to do, like schedule that for your days off, so that you can look back the next couple of days while you're working and be like, I'm working today and I feel great because the other day I did this cool thing and that made me really fired up. So That's what I was doing yesterday, is renting that car and going to that concert. So plan like fun stuff, fun activities, do things on your day off rather than just like sitting around. And it actually will help re-energize you more than if you just sat around and did nothing. I wrote down days off, not weeks off. So anytime that I'm planning big, like longer type of stuff, like a longer time off. Next month I'm going to the Florida Keys to go on a fishing trip. And so when I plan those things, if I have control of the dates at all, which in most cases I do because it's my life and I can control when I want to go, right? If I go for longer than a couple of days, I like to go on the end of the week to the beginning of the week. So I'll try and go like Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, something like that. I don't want to go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, because then when I get back from my vacation or my time off or whatever, then if I get back on Saturday night, then I got Sunday to make phone calls and maybe schedule something for Monday, right? So that's like a really short runway versus if I take off like part of the week on one week and part of the week on another week, that gives me more time on both of those weeks to sell or work or do whatever around my vacation. That's one way that I strategically schedule my days off so I can still be consistent, because what tends to happen is if you take a really long time off, or if you do it, at the time of the week where it's like one weekends, you're like, all right, now it's vacation. You end up breaking your momentum of your business because you're still having to schedule, you're still having to make phone calls and schedule appointments. And so if you stop doing that, you take vacation time, you take days off, you do whatever, then when you get back, you have to continue to do that. You have to set up more appointments. You have to rebuild your momentum, which just, it takes time, right? So that helps, or that can hinder you from having a consistent week basis of selling. So generally speaking, if I know that I'm going to be taking some time off, I might try to schedule appointments a little bit further in advance. So when I get back, the day that I get back, if I get back the night of or whatever, the next day, I like to have appointments. I like to have something in my schedule that gets me back into working like that, right? So that may not be, you go by all the time, like appointments 4, 5, or 6 days in advance. But if you have the opportunity, if you're going to be taking some time off, I would say that's a really solid strategy for you. So I would do that. And then I already talked a little bit about how your days off like really help to recharge you. So when I think about my best weeks ever selling Cutco, one of the best weeks ever that I've ever had was right on the heels of me taking a really big, it wouldn't really be like a vacation, but I took a trip to some other part of Florida, to one of the springs in North Florida with one of my friends. It was 4th of July weekend. So it was right before SC2. And I took this day off. I had planned to take the day off, but I didn't know what I was going to be doing. So the thing that I was doing, going to the springs, was really spontaneous. It felt really good for me. And that day off was right after I had a really big weekend. So that was on a Monday and a Tuesday that I took off. It was right after I had a really big weekend, but that Monday was the first day of SC2 that I took off. All right. I don't know if I would really recommend taking days off during the push, right? But here's what happened is I took Monday and Tuesday off. And then the week after that, it was at that point in my career, it was my best week ever. And it was I wouldn't say that it was caused by the time that I took off and the enjoyment that I had, but I look back on that and say, wow, I'm really glad that I did that versus working, and then feeling that burnout. So those are a couple of thoughts that I have for you guys on consistent selling. One thing that I think is probably important to note too, because a lot of times when I hear talks from CSP type people, from the people that I looked up to in the business, sometimes when I hear things and they tell me about the way that they do things, I have a mental block, and I say, well, they're doing that now because because they've been doing it for 15 years, they've been doing it for 10 years, or they're CSP, so that's why they can be able to do that. So what I want to let you guys know is that yes, over the last year, I've sold $1,000 every single week for the last 52 weeks, because I'm a CSP, right? Because it's my job, or because it's my business, because I don't have school, right? But also before that, 53, 54 weeks ago, all right, I was consistent for the last like 30 weeks or something like that before that, all right? And I had 1 week that just broke the cycle, okay? And before that, all right, before that 30 weeks, I was consistent for like 20 or something weeks before that, okay? So this is something that I've been doing my Cutco career, all right? This is not the first time that I've been consistent just because now I'm a CSP or whatever. So you can do the same thing, all right? You don't have to wait to do it. So you don't have to be to a certain level. You can do it right now. Maybe it's not $1,000 for you right now. Maybe it's $500 a week. All right. For some of you, if you sold $500 a week for the rest of the year, that would be a breakout, outstanding, phenomenal year for you. So just keep that in mind, is that you can be consistent in your own way to start off, but getting that ball rolling, being more consistent will help you to have more success in the future. So that's kind of all the stuff that I had prepared for you guys. So what I'd like to do maybe is to get some feedback from some of you guys, or from Mike, about some things that really made a lot of sense for you.
Yes, first, thank you so much for that. I apologize, I had an important call in the middle. That's why I had to disappear for a moment. But from everybody that is taking notes and real present, it looks like from the looks of it, a lot of you guys are taking notes and really present, which is great. What showed up for you? What is something that you're like, man, I kind of needed to hear that this morning, or that was that was really helpful?
One was like the mindset of it's a business, not a job. So just like changing your mindset. I thought that was pretty cool, and like kind of changed my view on it.
Yeah, that's such a good. It's so simple to think that way, but it's true. It's like you're a business owner. You're the CEO, the CFO, the COO. Like if you make calls, your business sign is open. If you don't make calls, your business sign is closed. So excellent. Thanks, Alex. Let's take one or two more. I see Steven chiming in.
Yeah, something that showed up for me was the better you plan effectively, the more you can sell consistently. So you can just plan. For me, I'm starting out like with just the week, but if I can get to like weeks and weeks, like a couple weeks in advance, I don't have to necessarily think, I can just do. So I like the whole, like, if you just plan effectively, you sell more consistently.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing.
I thought that planning enjoyment was really important too. If you have other things that you're interested in and are motivating you, it's really important to make sure they're in your schedule so that you don't think you're cheating your business. I really love the idea that your business is closed if you're not at fairs.
Yeah, that's definitely a big thing.
Do we have any other comments or any questions for Dylan while we have him here? On one of the things that I want to kind of plug for Dylan is Dylan was a pioneer of getting newer representatives the opportunity to work a booth and work an event. And Dylan might remember this. He was like, I don't know, 40K, maybe 30K at that time. What were you at in sales when I introduced you to Nicole?
Yeah, so when I first got interested, accepted, joined the events team, I think I was at 35K in career sales. I think I was the youngest, like not the youngest, but like the newest CPO wise person that ever was on our team in Florida with the events team. So that was pretty cool.
And what that's done is it's pioneered opportunities for Trayvonte and Josh and Steven and, you know, Amanda and all these other people that are following suit. So what a huge you know, a huge opportunity that Dylan's kind of paved and trailblazed for some people. If you could hit on that real quick, what did that do for your business when you started really getting involved in surrounding yourself around people who are 5, 10, 15, 20, 50 times better than you?
Yeah. So that's a really good point. I remember a thought, a mindset that I had. I think this is my second year selling Cutco or something like that. But I got to the point where I was in the Clearwater office sometimes, but I was also going to school at the University of Florida in Gainesville. So I was there too. And in either of those offices, I was the best, the longest standing sales rep. So I had the highest career sales rep wise. Like there was managers and stuff, right, that had been selling longer than me. But career sales wise, I was the top person in either of those offices. And I just got to a point where I felt it was really interesting to be the number one person because I was comparing myself to people that I didn't want to be like, because they were newer, right? So being on the show team, being surrounded by people that were way, way better than me, putting myself at the bottom of the totem pole again, it was amazing to be surrounded by that. I remember the first meeting that I sat in with the show team, and the people at the meeting were Jamie King, over $1 million, over like $2 million or something like that in career sales. Carl and Heather Drew, who are like Cutco, you know, freaking alumni. They sell hundreds of thousands of dollars every year, and they travel most of the year. Matt King was there. Nicole and Ray Reed were both there. Like it was just all these powerhouse people. And at one point in the meeting, they were kind of like arguing. And I remember sitting in my chair like, dang, I feel really small right now. Like, but it was almost a good feeling to be surrounded by that. So.
Yeah, this is great because one of the conversations I had yesterday with one of our management candidates was the power of circle of influence and who your running mates are. And do they know that you're also running mates? You know, like, you know, if you called up some of my friends or my running mates, they're not even friends, they're like brothers and sisters. Like you called up Jason Heinrichs and said, hey, who's your running mate right now? Micah Brownwoods. You called Dean DeVries, who's one of your running mates right now? Micah Brownwoods. You know, you called Doug Sanson, who's one of your running mates right now? Micah Brownwoods. Like Zach Jenkins, Rachel Richards. Like, you know, I intentionally surrounded myself around people who are better than me or have what I want to have, or people that are on the same journey as me that I can also add value to. Now, you might say, how did Dylan add value to all these people? Dylan added value because he used everything they taught him. And when someone teaches you something and then they actually do it, it makes them feel validated, like they are being an effective leader. So that's what Dylan offered Nicole, and that's why he's Dylan Fitz right now. And that's why Nicole was willing to mentor and coach Dylan, because he was such a good student. So how did he add value to someone who's above him? Is by actually listening, by actually following through, being on time, being on point, following, being impeccable to his word. Everything he said he was going to do, he did it. He showed up for his events. He sold when he said he was going to sell, around school, around his UF classes that he was taking. Like literally, he was the poster child of execution. And that's why Nicole and Ray and all these other higher ups, Matt King and Jamie King and all of them said, we like Dylan. Even though he's only at 30, 40,000 in sales, we like him because of his execution and being impeccable to his word. So my thought for everyone that's listening on consistency is not only surround yourself around really great people, but offer them a lot of value by being a great student. And by being a great student and by being a great follower, you're going to offer them enough value, even if you can't necessarily give them much influence in return, at least not yet. So I appreciate you, Dylan. Dylan has now emerged as the vast action guru amongst that CSP community, according to Nicole. And so now he does offer them a lot of value on how to level up their vast action business, which is really cool. So to respect your time, Dylan, and everyone else, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for supporting us and helping us with our March Madness push. So thank you, and enjoy your Jaguar, and don't go too fast.
Thank you. I've got to go return it. So that's going to be a really fun hour drive.
Enjoy it, man. Everyone else, I'm going to stop the recording here in just a moment. I just want to thank all of you for joining us this morning. What I'd like to do is, in order for us to, sustain attendance, if you can post on the Game Changer group what your biggest light bulb was, your biggest takeaway. So that way, everyone that chose not to wake up this morning, can see, man, I kind of missed out. Because there's one or two people saying, I'll just watch the recording later. But the recording doesn't give you the opportunity to start your day with influence and inspiration. That's what we want. We want to start your day with influence and inspiration. If you watch this recording at, 5 o'clock tonight before the team meeting at 6, it's good, but you miss out on implementing and executing today. So we want you to win today. So how are you going to be able to use what Dylan talked about and apply that into your business today? Obviously, we'll see you all. We'll see TLA at 4 o'clock. I look forward to seeing the rest of you at 6 o'clock for session 1, and then session 2 at 8:45. So I'm going to stop. This recording. I just want to say thank you all again for joining in. Wait for tomorrow. Tomorrow we have upselling with Andy Noggle. He's the #1 manager in the company right now. He's going to talk about upselling, which is going to be great. So how to sell an extra $1,000 after you sell them $1,000. So look forward to that.